are you competing at your best every day in practice? If the answer is no, then nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm.
If you're giving your best competitive effort, then we can start to work from there and figure out how you can add more value. But I think a lot of players would really benefit from learning how to compete, and that goes a long way. Compete in practice, compete for it later in your life, in your marriage, for your relationship, like compete for what matters. I think I look at it in a lot of ways. It goes beyond just on the court.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we're joined by Coach Sam Allen, the founder of Blue Collar Basketball. Coach Allen directs sessions for PGC, as well as co-hosts the Hardwood Hustle podcast. His unique ability to teach the game and infectious energy have afforded him the opportunity to speak at Better Basketball, PGC, high school, and college coaching clinics. Before we hear from Coach Allen, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
Jamodi.
Let's go, man. Hey, the goatee's looking solid.
Well, just mixing it up, you know.
Just so you know, I mean, you're one of those guys that over the years, whether it's with PGC, Hardwood Hustle now, which is awesome, and then, Blue Collar Basketball, you've just always been inspiring to me. So, on my list of guys I wanted to talk to, like, you're there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Your first question for you, you're somebody that I've always felt like is, anytime I listen to, you're super intentional with what you do and what you say. So I would love to know, what's your morning routine or your favorite daily activities that you have?
Okay. Yeah. This is pretty consistent. I would say at least 5 days a week. Sometimes a weekend disrupts the normal routines, but my normal routine is wake up. I don't know how detailed we're getting here, but detailed. Well, okay. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I use the restroom, I drink a glass of
Okay. Less detailed. No, you're good.
Yeah, but I do, and I'm intentional about drinking a glass of water first thing, hugging all my family. I got 3 kids, making sure there's physical touch, I love you, and connection. And then I pretty much am grabbing my apple, my nutrition bar, and some tea, and I'm out the door, and I go lift, I go work out, and I get home, and then I get right into, for me, my devotional, whatever it is I'm doing. I'm actually in devotion with a small group of coaching friends, various high school, college coaches, and so do a devotional and some gratitude and prayer, and then boom, I get into work. But I start my morning, I call it my prime. I'm priming my body, my mind, my soul. I have gotten away from reading as a daily habit, but that's something that's always been a big part of my life. So, but I want to prime my mind, my body, my soul, because I know that there's a lot to get done. I know that storms will come. I know adversity will strike, and I want to position myself to be my best self so that I can be my best self to others in my life, whether it's like I said, my family, for my business, for the people I work with, for the kids I'm leading. So I think you got to get to be your best self. And I'm getting long-winded, but I'll say last thing that I'll say on it. When you fly in an airplane, what's the first thing the flight attendant says when something's going to happen? Put the oxygen mask on you first, because you can't save somebody else or help them if you're dead. And so we got to get ourselves right to be able to help others.
That's a great point. I mean, I wonder how many people just launch right in. They wake up and they launch right into their day. And then by the time all of the, like you said, the tasks and daily things that you have to do, by the time your day's done, you go home and they're maybe not even the motivation or the energy or the time. You got 3 kids and they're going all over the place. So you almost have to protect that part of your day to make sure that you're growing and you're doing those things. What time are you getting up in the morning to kind of start all that?
Yeah, right now for me, it's about 6:15. Yeah, I've gone through. I've really, like, I'm in a flow right now where I don't get home most nights until 10:30. I'm getting to bed later. If I'm in a flow where this is the spring season, we're doing this conversation, but other times, if I do get to bed earlier, I would wake up earlier and start my day earlier. But yeah, about 6:15 in the morning right now.
I love there's all those guys out there that 4 o'clock, 4:30 a.m. they're getting up, and there's a part of me like the idea of that sounds great and getting things done, but I don't know. I think maybe you got to be wired to that way to do something like that.
I think, yeah, there was a few years back where I was consistently waking up at 5 and I'd work out. Like the gym I work out is like 20-minute drive. And, but I wasn't getting to bed. And I used to take all this pride and red badge of courage of like, I'm a grinder, I'm going to outwork you. I've become much more intelligent about that lately. I prioritize sleep. I'm not great at it. But I've come to realize how important it is, like to your immune system, like when I don't sleep well, I'm a more emotional guy. I got less patience. I'm quicker to frustrate, quicker to anger, and I'm not as good a person, to be honest with you. So I do prioritize sleep. But I also believe in getting the day started early and getting it, started on the right foot.
Yeah, I have a hard time winding down at night. Just my brain kind of calming down, and like last night, the Lakers were playing, Golden State's. It's like you're up there watching that. Anything that you do just to help your brain, help yourself kind of slow down at night.
Yeah, I wish I could say they're emphatically. I have a evening routine. I've never been great at evening routines. I've experimented with different ones. Reading at night is a good one for me because it makes me tired and makes you go to bed quicker. TV, for the longest time, I haven't had a TV in our bedroom.
That's smart.
And remove it, even though recently we put it in there for my 4-year-old daughter. I don't think that was a smart move, but yeah, I have found, that reading, and then lately I would say I do kind of like a evening prayer where I just close my mind, quiet my thoughts, and just pray. And that may consist of real prayer. It may consist of like, no, what went well today, what gratitude. I'm not writing it down, but I'm just kind of mentally going through that. It's not a routine. It's not a habit, but that is something I have experimented with that I really like.
I appreciate you sharing all that. And one thing I think a takeaway is doing what works best for you and making that fit within your day. I watch Mono and guys, and I listen to those videos, and I really enjoy hearing about the ultra successful people in their daily routines. But then sometimes I'm thinking, man, I'm not even close to that. But you feel that pressure. But then even Mono would say, it's not about what everybody else is doing. It's about finding what that best balance for yourself.
Well, can I say one more thing on that? So I do think it's important because you'll listen to some of these people and they're like, yeah, I read for 45 minutes. I meditate for 30. I work out. And it's like 2.5 hours blocked out. And like, I've learned to give myself grace because I used to like feel defeated if I didn't do all
Absolutely.
And the reality is we're all at different stages. So if you're a father or a mother listening to this and you have young kids, like that may not be your reality, and that ain't going to be your reality for several years. Give yourself grace. So, yeah, would I love to do a devotional for 30 minutes? Yeah, but reality, it's a 5 to 10 minute. Would I love to have 30 minutes extra in the gym? Yeah, but right now it's not. I'm hitting it for 45 minutes and I'm in and I'm out. And so I think giving ourselves grace is really important, and it all is on, what stage of life. A lot of those people, they don't have kids, and so you trying to align your life up to them is just you're going to be comparison's a thief of joy, and you're going to leave yourself very frustrated.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. So now with a blue-collar basketball, and you're a great player yourself, but what are the non-negotiables in your program or standards?
I would say there's three things we talk a lot about, which is I'll rattle them off and I'll unpack each. So effort, um, be a great teammate, and then being coachable. And so what is that? And we really try to actually move effort into a category of just compete. So I think effort entails one thing. We'd rather kids learn how to compete, and I think that's another level of effort that is important for players. I'll just speak for us that we work with. We want them to know, because we work, just to give people context, blue collar basketball, we're doing a lot of training with athletes and we're doing a lot of club basketball. So we send them back to you, the high school coach, and then they're going to call me, 5 games into the season. They're going to say, Coach Saman, he's I'm only playing 2 minutes a game, and I feel like I don't understand. And I'll ask them, hey, are you competing at your best every day in practice? If the answer is no, then nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm.
If you're giving your best competitive effort, then we can start to work from there and figure out how you can add more value. But I think a lot of players would really benefit from learning how to compete, and that goes a long way. Compete in practice, compete for it later in your life, in your marriage, for your relationship, like compete for what matters. I think I look at it in a lot of ways. It goes beyond just on the court. Being a great teammate, well, if you're doing number one and competing, you're being a great teammate. Because if me and you are teammates and I'm giving my best, I'm being a great teammate to Matt Saman, and I'm helping you and our team. But also being a great teammate, encouraging, we can unpack some of that. But then here, I want to touch on the coachable piece. So I've been talking a lot about this lately. You ever coach a kid and you like give them some correction and critique, and they look at you and they're, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And then they go out and they don't do anything you just asked them to do.
It's just the yes, sir. Yeah.
So their behavior has been trained. They've been maybe well brought up in their house by their parents of being respectful. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. They know how to play the part. Or sometimes I call it, there's a professional Christian of check the box. And I'd rather a kid look at me dead cold, no reaction, even look at me and say, F you, and then go out and do it, what we're trying to get you to do, then yes, sir, and then not do what we're trying to do.
Right.
Now, I say that jokingly. I don't want them to say F you. And I was actually saying this at practice last night, because we need to kind of reestablish some of our culture and where we're at. But I think that's an important thing for coaches, if coaches are listening, is, don't play the part. Like I need to know your heart is there and that your mind is there. And so when those three things as the pillars are in place, I think really good things can happen. Now there's a lot of other things. I think gratitude's a really foundational thing. I think a growth mindset, but we try to operate really simple with those three principles.
Yeah. On that last one, I think you have to be careful being okay with the fact that they're respectful and saying yes, sir. But because a lot of times I think you can get your point across and they say yes, sir, and they're giving eye contact and they're an active listener. You feel like they have it. But then as a coach, you can almost turn a blind eye to, well, what is the next action from them? Like you just you got to have that follow through to where, all right, we had a great talk, but now what are the actions? Because just that talk is so cheap. The actions have to follow it.
And another thing, you've probably read Doug Lemov, who's a master. Have you read Doug Lemov?
I've not.
Okay, so he just wrote a recent book, and how to train coaches. But in his books, he talks about how to be a better teacher. He's a teacher of teachers. And one thing, when you give correction or coach or feedback to a kid, a lot of coaches give it. They walk to the other basket. They don't stay and see, did they apply it? Because we got to give critiques in coaching, wait, reflect, watch, observe, okay, and then re-correct again. Yeah. It's not a one-stop shop usually. I think that's a common mistake leaders and coaches make. They think it's a one feedback. They think we're going to have a preseason parent meeting and this thing's going to be smooth sailing. No, you better have a preseason. You better have a midseason. better have another midseason, a postseason, better have weekly emails, messaging, because the number one miscommunication is the illusion that it took place. And we've got to, I always bleed on the side of over communicate. And when they get tired of hearing the principles, the vision, then you're in a good spot.
Yeah, that's a great point. Your number one non-negotiable, that effort piece. And I like that you kind of touched on competing even more. Does that mean when you're building your practices, because I would imagine with your program, you're probably getting more time than a lot of, select programs do. Not as much time as a high school program does, throughout the season. But are you spending more of your time teaching concepts, but within a competition game or drill rather than just 5-on-0 or individual pieces? What's your balance there like?
Oh yeah, yes to all that. So we we want to create a competitive environment. We want to create an environment that draws out. It's less about me blowing the whistle and doing a 5-minute monologue. They're not going to get competitive because they've heard me talk about it. They're going to get competitive because we put them in an environment where it matters, where there's a winner, where there's a loser, where competing matters. And then we're drawing out that competitive spirit. And so with that, a games approach, which some people would call, we may be working on ball screens, or we'll do a 3-on-3 ball screen game, and we're going to do it for 5 minutes. And we're working on an action, but we're also working on the element of competing. It's like a good gardener isn't a good gardener because they make the plant grow. They're because, and there's a quote to it that I don't have, but they make the environment, the soil rich, the environment of where the plants are going to grow. They make that right, and that environment will grow the plant, not just because you want to grow the plant. So same with kids. We want a very competitive environment where there is a winner and loser, where maybe there is a reward for the winner, maybe there is a I don't want to call it a punishment, but maybe me and you are playing one-on-one and you beat me 12-3. I've got 9 push-ups, or I have 9 sprints. I might have 1 push-up. It's not really about the whatever there is something on the line.
Yeah,
I think that's healthy. Me and you may be having this podcast interview 5 years from now, and I may have a different truth. That's my truth right now. And we have found that to be a very healthy thing. I would say that kids do learn how to compete in our program. We practice 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it's very limited. Yeah. So 1.5 to 2 hours. And we don't do a lot of on-air drill work. We do some, because I think skill work matters, but we do 1-on-1, 2-on-2s, what we call 33s, 44s, that's 4-on-4, 5-on-5, 50. So we'll do all that. We're working on the skill and we're working on competing.
I think I may make a mistake at times of doing too much skill work that doesn't involve. I'm asking them to bring effort. That effort that you and I can see is that's authentic, that's real. But man, for a player, I think we're both getting older, so we may forget what it felt like sometimes just to be in a drill that, yes, I'm supposed to give my best, but if there's no true competition piece to it, besides just me versus myself, I know I may be doing a disservice at times with my guys of not creating or not giving especially in skill development, those opportunities to compete more.
Well, 2 more things on it. We can do, okay, me and you're, coaching together, and we're running a practice, and we're doing a shooting drill on one end and a shooting drill on the other, and there's 12 players, right? So it's 3-on-3 on one basket, 3-on-3 on the other. Well, the white and the red team, we can compete on an on-air where, hey, first team to make 10 threes wins. So that's one thing. And there was something else you just said that triggered a thought, just left me a minute ago. What did you say a moment ago about the competing piece? No, what did you say a minute ago?
Oh, just that, I do. They're sitting there and asked to give effort in a drill, but it's hard to do that over time. I probably do that a little bit too much where I don't have enough competition involved.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here's what you triggered a thought that I think is worth mentioning. And I do this sometimes, but if you go into any practice and anywhere in the world and you ask the team, you say, hey, we're gonna work on ball. I'm just gonna go back to ball screens. You guys want to drill it, or do you guys want to play and compete? 100%,
Yeah.
maybe not 99% are always going to say play and compete. So if we are in the business of kids enjoying the sport experience, I do where, like, look, 8 years ago when I started blue collar basketball, we were heavy on air technique building. Like that was what my truth was. It's not anymore because, yeah, number one, you're not able to develop competitiveness, and kids don't enjoy it, but they're not as engaged. So when you go play, they're more engaged. They have more fun. They're going to want to come back. And now it's cyclical, and it's just going to repeat itself in a very good way. So I'm always thinking, and I'm not. It's not like, hey, I'm all about kids having fun. I think part of having fun, we need to define fun. Fun is, on a Friday night
Yep.
when you got the ball in your hands and you're playing your rival and the coach trusts you to go make a play because you've put in all this hard work. But I think we got to think about that as developmental coaches, probably all the way up to a professional level in some sense. I don't know what the right cutoff is, but yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to create competitive practices that are also your players would be able to say, I had fun. Because especially in my, in my environment here at a private school, I mean, they literally choose to be here. They choose to be here at school. They choose to be in the program. And I feel like a little bit of an obligation or to honor that choice. And so how do I honor that? Do I honor that with this, my practices are not meant for your enjoyment mentality, like in Hoosiers? Or do I try to be a little bit more creative? One thing I love about getting to, talk with coaches like this is the small golden nuggets that you guys, you plant in these talks. And you said it a second ago. You said maybe he loses 12-3 and he does 9 push-ups. I've honestly never, I don't know if I've ever thought about having almost like a sliding scale on the punishment, because if you, and the light bulb moment for me was, if I lose 12-3, well, if I was down and I knew I was going to lose probably anyway, what's driving that kid at that point, except for just maybe that intrinsic value that he has in never quitting and always fighting. Not every kid has that. But if you say, okay, you fight as hard as you can to get up to, you lost 12-9. Well, now you only have 3 instead of the 9. Like, I think that's kind of brilliant. And you just glossed right over that real quick. I love that.
Well, let me touch on it because this came as a learning about 2 or 3 years ago where we incorporated this into our practices. So I'm going to give a real life example, kind of building on what I just said. But so we'll play a 5-minute FIBA game. Are you familiar with FIBA rules?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for those listening that don't know, let's say it's a 3-on-3 FIBA game. And when, you're on the blue team, I'm on the white team, and blue team scores it, white grabs it out of the net and has to clear the ball behind the arc with the dribble or the pass, or blue team shoots it, white rebounds, they have to clear it. If you get an offensive rebound, you can just go back up. But it's an ongoing, continuous game. And then you can game it how you want. Like we just say when the ball goes out of bounds, always defense ball.
Yep. DaVinci rules, baby.
Yeah, DaVinci rules. So, but what I found is when we would do this, let's say, if you before the game, you say the team that loses has 5 sideline sprints. They just, every time you touch a sideline, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if we play this for 5 minutes. Well, if a team is down 23-4 with 1 minute to go, human nature is going to say, we can't come back. Our competitive spirit drops.
Yep.
And when you're down 22-4 and you're going to run 18 sprints, but I can press here and maybe go on a 7-0 run, and I go from 22-4 to 22-11, like that elevates human performance. I don't know, like that's an extrinsic motivator. But hey, that happens in life. I mean, that there's some reality to it. Do I want Chris, Mike, and Louie to I don't know any kids named Louis, so I don't know why I just said Louis. But
I like
Chris,
Mike and too.
yeah, if Chris, Mike, and Louis were on the team, do I want them to compete because they want to compete? Yes. But the reality is, doesn't always happen. And so this really elevates competing from beginning till end and having that sliding scale. I mean, we just did it last night. Now, you get in trouble. Like we played a game last night where we do 5-3-1 scoring, which I really like. And if you score with no dribble, 5 points. You score with one dribble, 3 points, 2 or more, it's 1 point. And we had a team beat in a 4-minute. We play a 3-on-3 same-sided game where we're trying to work on our fill cuts, work on back doors, quick decisions on the catch, and a team beat them I think it was 38-13, just destroyed them. Well, I'm not gonna. We can't run 25 sprints, so we're gonna run 13, and then they owe us those later. We'll work those in, but we have found this to be a very effective tool in bringing out competitiveness.
I think it's awesome. And I mean, the whole thing that we want as coaches is, no wasted opportunities, right? Like we want it to every second of practice to be meaningful. And there's going to be those games where we're playing a team that, at every position, bigger, faster, stronger, more skilled. That's going to happen. And even though we're competitive, we get late in that game, and you just know, do we have enough in us to get all the way back? Probably not. But then, man, because of training this way, we know that we're going to get as close as we possibly can. I think it's huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. It matters. I mean, if it matters to the coach, I think it matters, and you got to bring it out.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballology. What's your BSA score? The Ballology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Ballology mobile app. Elevate your game. I think you do a really good job of communicating with high school coaches and partnering with them. And because of that, I guarantee you have a great relationship with those high schools and their players, and high school coaches and their players. But unfortunately, earlier on in my coaching career, I was more, these players are mine, and they don't need that. And there's this, I know for a lot of, there's this huge friction between high school basketball and select basketball, and to where there's sometimes no communication at all. What advice can you give for high school coaches on ways to approach or ways to make that relationship better?
There's a huge division. I'm in Atlanta, and there is a huge division among the travel ball and the high school coach, not just Georgia, but nationally. And I think I start with this. What's the goal? And the goal is it should be a player-centric model. We're trying to help a player improve as a basketball player, as a young man, and who they are as a person, and we're trying to help them as a leader. I think of those 3 areas. And if we're really, really committed to that, then we're going to put aside pride and ego and all the things that get in the way of sinful, flawed people like myself. And we're going to elevate the player to help them. And so it should be like a triangle where the player's at the top, high school coach is here, and the travel ball coach is here, and we're trying to get there. So I think for high school coaches, if the travel ball coach doesn't bridge the gap, the high school coach should. And sometimes the gap is bridged. A lot of times, especially in Atlanta now, the high school coaches hire the top shoe company coaches, and they bring them on their staff so they can get players. So sometimes there's ultra close for that reason. And then oftentimes there is just this friction because there's no trust. There's no trust because there's no communication. And quite frankly, sometimes a travel ball coach is undermining or undercutting the high school coach. They're bad-mouthing them. And you can't control that as a high school coach, but you can control reaching out. Sometimes just bridging that gap, reaching out, call, hey, coach, I want to come out to practice and just watch you guys. Hey, coach, I just want to start some dialogue with we're trying to help Chris, And hey, here's some things that he did really well this season. Here's some things that I think he needs to work on. What have you seen? Or hey, do you think these things can be improved on in your program? So it's like that. Those should be conversations that we have. But I think it's a two-way street, and it takes both people. And sometimes the high school coach may reach out and not get any reciprocation. We'll keep reaching out.
Yeah.
Don't get your feelings hurt, and we got to keep bridging that gap. You don't want to spend a ton of wasted energy on it, but it goes back to the player.
It's important though. Yeah, and it goes back to the player. I think ultimately when, if we're having those feelings of that we're not appreciating or we don't value, what these other coaches are doing, I do think we got to look at ourselves in the mirror, and be like, where is that coming from? What's the pride issue? What is that controlling nature that we tend to have?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
Well, I was just gonna. And also because I want to see these guys truly go back. And help their high school team, and so we want to teach them things that are universal defensive skills that will help, universal offensive skills that can fit into any system. Not learning a bunch of ours. We do run some sets because they need to learn how to set a screen, like things that may help them in any system. So it's teaching those universal, but then oftentimes, I'm having weekly texts or conversations with their high school coach. If there's a challenge I'm having with a particular player, I want to partner with them. Hey, is there something that I don't know that I could reach them better? Or hey, they're doing this a lot. Have you seen this, or am I only seeing it? So hey, and then they might pull them aside and talk to them during the school day. We might jump on a 3-way call. We might jump on a Zoom call. And I just think we got to be proactive about it and bridging gaps. It's not about us and the coach. It's about the player.
See, I think there's probably, if any coaches listen to this, they're hearing you talk, they're probably going to think, golly, if only he was in our city. But I think we got to take the first step into creating that type of dynamic that you're talking about, because it's I've always the last few years I thought, during the school season, yes, I'm going to do everything I possibly can with the time that I have with that player, but during the select season, and you got to look at it that way. It's like school season, the Faith basketball season ended our very last game. Now I'm going to continue to train and work on them as individuals, but I'm not going to talk about Faith basketball every single day, because they are starting their select season, where I become more of a supplement to what they're doing, the same way that I want them to supplement what we're doing. But man, those conversations that I think you have with those guys that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are very fortunate because we have a lot of high school coaches' kids in our program too, which is awesome, and even college coaches' kids. So just really enjoy it, and it makes it. So I think club coaches that are listening too, you partner well with them, and coaches, not always, but a lot of coaches' kids are they love the game. They're willing to put in the work. They're coachable. Again, not always, but most of the time. So it's good to partner. And I say that sounds like it's not the reason why we're trying to do it, is like so we can. But I do think that's one of the benefits of good relationships with them.
What is your favorite shooting game or drill?
Oh gosh,
there's so many, but if you could choose one that we only have this amount of time, this is our go-to.
Gotcha. Oh, that's a good one. Well, we do one, and at our practice last night, we had a college coach. This is fresh in mind because college coach that was there watching was like, man, I'm going to take this one and do it. And we've been doing it now for 5 years, I think. It's nothing groundbreaking, but so we track threes. And so throughout the spring of our travel ball, and it's called 25. So you shoot 25 threes. You have a minute 45, one ball, one partner, and you have a minute. I think I already said you have a minute 45 to get it off. And we do it every practice, sometimes twice a practice. Then we track, so they have 3 months worth of these shots. And it bleeds into our green light shooting system. So we say you got to be at 70% plus. This is for our 17U team, 70% plus 25 in this 25 drill shooter to be a green light. 60 to 69 is a yellow. And if you're below 60, 59 or lower, you're a red. And the idea is a couple things. And I'll unpack it in a second. Well, let me go ahead and unpack it, then I'll tell you the why behind it. So 5 spots, 5 shots. 5 corner, wing, top, wing, corner, work your way around. And there's some intended consequence, not unintended. These are intended consequences from it. Rebounder, we got 3 focuses. You got to have great hustle. That means don't let the ball hit the floor. Grab it out of the net, grab it off the rim. Be a great passer. Work on your weak hand passing. Number 3, be a great communicator. Make them, encourage them through it. And then shooter, you better be shot ready. And when you only have 1:45, if you're not shot ready and your rebounder not working, you're not going to get them all off. It just won't happen. And then the really big picture, global viewpoint on it that we want is to be a great, in today's game, I mean, you're like the walking billboard of 3-point shooting, but is like, you can elevate your status on a team and elevate your ability to play at another level, middle school to high school to college, college to pro, if you're an elite shooter.
Yep.
And we all have 100% control of being an elite shooter. I don't have 100% control of being an elite above the rim dunker. I don't have 100% control over my size and speed. Okay, I can improve those things. All right, so what do we want here? We want a player to know where they're at, because where you're trying to get to, to go where you're trying to get to, you got to know where you're at first. And then 2, if they're a red light shooter, say they're a 54% shooter and they're like, man, coach, I want to shoot in games. Well, they can go to their high school gym or their driveway and get up shots. We let them record on their phone, and they can send in their 100 threes or 200 threes and start working their way. We really want to inspire them to do more work on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really long answer, but
no, it's good.
That's probably one of them.
I really like that. We do the green, our green, yellow, red drill is the 4 minutes, 90 shots with 3 guys and 2 balls, 2 rebounders. But the problem with, so it like you said before, it gives us, 45 and above, that's our green lights. And, we do it over, golly, 10 to 20 times throughout the season. The only problem with that game is that it's
12 minutes,
15 minutes, because you give them a little bit of time in between. You're right. But I love that because you get a similar outcome from your game, but it's much shorter. And also you only have to have 2 partners or 2 people in a group. So I think I'm going to steal that. And because it goes right along with, everybody should have some. It also helps with role identification. You start to yell out your results in front of everybody over time. He keeps saying 60 or above. I keep saying 30. In a game, do we really have to talk about if I'm kind of open, but he's really open, where should that one more go? So it helps with that too.
Well, that I didn't mention that, the shot selection. It essentially teaches shot selection.
Yep.
And instead, like I think, I think shot selection is one of the, if not the number one component to winning and losing. What type of shots do we get? What type of shots do we give up? So we often in practice, a guy will shoot it and we'll say, was that an average shot, good shot, or great shot? And we want to oftentimes great shot. Good shot will happen sometimes, but when it's average, and that's the power of the question. You ask them and they start. And I think, what also is important about shot selection, and tell me if you agree with this, bad shots destroy team chemistry and culture.
Oh, no doubt. Morale. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's nothing more and when a guy keeps taking bad shots and a coach doesn't correct it or sub them out, whatever, like you can lose your team.
Yeah.
Guys stop running back in transit. You'll see it at the end of an NBA season. Watch a bad team play, and there's so many bad shots because they're like hunting stats and individual stuff on bad teams in the NBA, and the season's over, and you see the worst morale, the
body
worst
language. Yeah. I think too that the way that you say that asking them the question of what it is That's huge too, because it protects their confidence a little bit more. I think one of the worst things as coaches we can yell at a kid is that's a bad shot. Like, yes, is it a shot that you want as your team? No, but is there a different way to communicate with that with them? Because shot selection is probably the most personal thing to every player. Like, hey, coach, don't tell me that's a bad shot. You haven't seen me. Like, yes, as coaches we have, and we know, and the whole team knows. But I think that's a great way to protect their confidence by asking them that question, and not even in front of everybody. Maybe more in a whisper, one-on-one, close to them.
Yeah, I think I do agree with that. I would, and I'm not saying you don't do it. I would push back a little bit and say too, I want the team, like if I'm coaching
Yes, yeah,
fourth graders, I'm going to be a little more if I'm coaching a 17U team, I want the other players to know. I want us to all be on the same page. So I do
yeah.
like to have a team conversation about it daily.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by The Laser, the most advanced basketball training system ever created. It's designed to help players develop their change of speed, pace, and direction. This state-of-the-art and award-winning technology tracks every move of your body and every bounce of the ball, while it gives you video-based instructor-led guidance through over 275 signature NBA drills, workouts, and brain exercises scientifically proven to train the reaction time and decision-making for real in-game situations. For more information, check out handlefitness.com. This question is, I think, going to be unique to you on the select coaching side or club coaching side, because, in these tournaments that you play, Michael Jordan took 15 minutes after every game to think about the loss, and then he was done with it. But he was so competitive. One of the things I think we worry about with guys playing game after game after game is that winning is devalued, or it loses a little bit of that. Losing doesn't sting as bad because, man, guys, hey, we play in 2 hours. Like, we can't really sit around. So my question to you is, how do you handle defeat directly after the game with your team?
I'm very competitive. I don't handle defeat well. No, I mean, there's truth in that. That it's why we take a little bit different approach with our teams. Like, we do not play. If you start in March and go to Memorial Day, you got essentially 12 weekends, and a lot of travel ball teams are going to play minimum 8, probably closer to 10 tournaments of those 12 weekends, whereas we play 6. So for one reason, we're going to put our money where our mouth is and say, we're not playing as much because the few that we do play, we want it to matter a lot.
Yeah.
So we try to create that structure. And then a lot of tournament organizers, especially in Atlanta, have gone to these showcase tournaments where they preset all 4 games to try to get matchups. And so you're not playing towards something like a Sunday bracket championship. But when you're in a pool to bracket, it does naturally lend itself, like you lose, you're done. And so I think it draws out competitiveness. But I do think kids can play so much. It's like, oh, we didn't play this week. Well, this weekend, we got next weekend. Oh, there's always next one. We move on to the next one. And so competing doesn't matter, but that's where we hope in our practices.
Yeah.
It's not like just when the lights come on in the games. We want it to be a mindset that's daily, regardless of game. Now, to answer your question, how do I handle defeat? I've gotten a lot better at this. I say a lot less after a game. I don't want to go in and unpack the whole game right afterwards. Everybody's ticked off. If you lost, there's probably more guys that didn't play well than did play well. And so less is more usually. Now, there may be I try to a 1-and-1, like what's one thing on the court that didn't do well that we need to, if we played a 9 a.m. game, we're going to play a 2 p.m. game. When they go off to lunch, if we don't eat together, I do want them to be aware of something when they go and they're thinking. So I was like, hey, we did not rebound the ball at all today in this, and that's why we lost. That's got to be a focus. Hey, and then a 1-and-1. So one thing on the court, maybe a 1 intangible. Hey, I didn't think our bench was into it. A lot of you guys on the bench were kind of low energy, or maybe you're upset with your playing time. Say, that's not who we are. That's not who you are. And we've got to be a great teammate, even regardless of playing time. And that's not easy. So I may say something like that, kill it, and boom, we're off. So I don't want to say a whole lot after a game. And we know, coaches speak like even right now, every answer I'm giving you is probably long-winded.
But it's good though. It's really good. And that's how we think too, is that, they need everything that I'm getting them. But if we really, again, remember back to what it was like to either be a player or even just how learning happens, you just can't sit there for a long time and really expect them to remember everything, take everything, especially when there's emotion. I think I love the 1-and-1 idea, one thing on the floor. I think I typically tend to only focus on that area and I forget to focus on the other area. The next day of practice, after watching film and after seeing the bench, or maybe even thinking back our lack of spirit, our lack of energy and togetherness, I might bring that up. One coach told me that you get 3 minutes at halftime, 3 minutes after the game. That's it. And I think that's been helpful to me. I've even asked my assistant coach in the past, okay, time me, at 3, do something to click something to get me out of it.
Yeah. And the 1-and-1 could be, it could be one on offense, one on D. It could be one, what was the other thing I was going to say? It could be one intangible, one tangible. One thing that we did well, one thing that we didn't do well. So you can take it any way you want. You can do a 2-and-2. I think you get too much, they're just not going to remember. It's just like, here's another mistake. I realized I did this about 4 or 5 years ago. Like, we have some really high level coaches in our BCB program that are really good. And after practice, we'd be in a huddle and I'd want to honor those coaches. And so I would say something and I'd say, Coach, what do you got? We'd have 4 or 5 coaches. They didn't remember.
No,
they didn't remember.
Maybe
what
the
I
last
said.
guy. Maybe the last guy.
Yeah. And so I realized like halfway through, I said, guys, I'm trying to be respectful and honor you, but I think we're doing a disservice. So we're going to huddle as coaches right before. If one coach has a very prevailing thought that we think the group, or we might decide what do they need to hear right now, and have that. It can be any coach. It doesn't have to be the head coach. It can be any coach step up and deliver that one message.
I think that's a great point, and definitely something I'm going to steal, because I've been in that post-practice huddle where, again, my guys have been there, and I probably talk too much during practice, or maybe more than my assistant coaches do. And so they had to give them that opportunity. All of a sudden I look up, I'm like, okay, we're supposed to be out at this time, and we're blowing right past that. So, man, I appreciate that. Coach, it's time for the speed round.
Let's do this.
Are you ready for that? So it's short.
I'm so ready.
Short. You're pumped, right? Isn't that what you used to say? Like when you get up to speak in front of I am pumped. Or you'd say
I would say I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. And the way that you delivered that too, it just couldn't help but make you smile out in the crowd. But all right, short questions. First thing that comes to your mind.
All right.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Thank you. Texting or talking?
Yes.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Invisibility or super strength?
Ooh, super strength, I guess.
I knew that was going to be the one that you'd say. Place you most want to travel?
Hawaii.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0.
No caffeine?
I drink tea, which has a little caffeine.
No energy drinks.
Just
that
energy the Lord gave me.
That's right. Last one. Godfather or Star Wars?
Godfather.
Yep. I could have guessed that too. Not many coaches are Star Wars guys. My dad.
I think there's closet Star Wars. They're like afraid to admit it though.
Because they're a coach, they have to say Godfather. I agree. Hey man, we went for almost an hour, and I'm so thankful that you kind of gave up your time, and I enjoy our conversation. I love getting to learn from you.
Hey, I enjoyed it too. I had to make sure I back up what I just told you.
I think that's a fun part. Yeah, anything that you say on here, it really makes you evaluate what you're doing. Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.